morning. It is Wednesday morning, and we are on episode 83 of the podcast for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs. This is ASMM Digital's Small Business Connections, and we're bringing this to you from ASMMdigital.com. This is my small business. I started it 4 years ago, and what we do is we help small businesses be seen online. It's important that you have an online presence, but it's not always easy to do that. And we become you online. We want to help you get to the people you want to reach in a way that's personal. It's really not about advertising so much as creating a relationship with your potential customers. So that's who we are. And we're bringing this to you. We're the only advertiser on the show. So hopefully you'll go over and check us out. We'd really appreciate that. I'm going to give you a little bit of insight into something about the show, a little bit of behind the scenes information this morning. We do this show live. We start out live and then we take it, we pull the audio, we put it out as a podcast. But there is an enormous amount of stress that comes with this idea of going live first thing in the morning, or at least 10 o'clock in the morning, which isn't necessarily first thing, but it's a podcast that's live. And I never understood why people didn't do it more until this happens to me. This morning, my guest was supposed to be here at 9:50. She's not. And so I have to pivot and figure out what I'm going to say. But maybe it's a good test for me. So I'd love to hear if you have things that happen like this to you and you're like, I could be really aggravated, or I could think, how do I take this and use it to make me a stronger business owner, or to make me a better speaker, or to make me better on the fly, right? Whatever it is, what is it that really bothers you or gives you a little bit of stress, and then you realize, wait a second, it's an opportunity. So how are you creating those opportunities? I would love, you can leave a comment. Actually, that's one of the things we talk about all the time. We're streaming live. We're on Twitter, we're on YouTube, and we're on Facebook. So you can ask questions, and it's perfect time for you to ask questions today because it's going to be a shorter show. Unless I get questions, it's going to be a shorter show. But it's also a great opportunity for you to say, hey, Ann, this is what's going on with me. This is how I do it. And we can get you out there and give you a little bit of a plug as well for your business. So I have to pivot. It's what I have to do probably once or twice a month. I have to make these pivots and come up with what we're going to talk about on the fly. So this morning I was thinking about morning rituals, and I was thinking about this idea that it's all over the place. Michael Hyatt talks about it. Most of the people I listen to, for any book that I've read, talks about this importance of morning rituals. And if you're somebody like me who likes rules, it's really easy to get pulled into the fact that they say, oh, get up, get your workout in, get up and do this, get up and do these other things. And then you realize that this is going to take 3 hours for your morning ritual. You have to get up at 5 o'clock, and maybe that doesn't work for you. So I want to ask you, what does work for you? And is it seasonal, or is it all year long that this particular morning ritual works for you? And the reason I'm asking this question in particular is because I love to get a workout in the morning, but I also like to get my workouts in outside in nature. And two things keep me from getting a morning workout in right now, first thing in the morning. First, I have a huge fear of spiders, and I tend to find that when I walk out my door in the morning, there's always a spider out there that's going to greet me. And so I have this anxiety about walking out the door and walking into a spider. It scares me. I don't like it at all. But on a more serious note, it's dark in the mornings. It's dark, and I am a woman alone walking. And I don't want to be a woman alone walking in the dark. I don't think it's safe for me. So I rearrange my day, and I do my morning ritual without a workout. And I get my workout in sometime in the afternoon. Usually what I try to do in the colder months is get it done at noonish, so at lunchtime, because it's warmer, right? It's warmer. It's probably the warmest time of the day, and I can enjoy the outside without freezing my buns off. So that's what works for me. But I'm curious as to what works for you, and how much thought you put into it, and how much leeway you give yourself. So another thing that is a morning ritual that people talk about a lot is taking time to read. My problem with taking time to read first thing in the morning is that my husband's here, and I enjoy spending time with him in the mornings. We don't always get dinner together, but we do always get breakfast together. And if I've got my nose in a book, I've got my nose in something online, I'm not going to have that opportunity to do that with him. So I'm curious as to how your morning ritual goes and what are some of the things you do, whether it's learning or whether it's exercise, or if it's checking your emails, whatever that morning ritual is. Does it stay the same or do you change it? Whitney says, oh my gosh, this takes me back to when I emceed a fashion show. I had all the details of each model on cards. Then the models started walking the runway all out of order. And after a second of panic, I had to put the cards down and just talk about each outfit. Knowing your material and always having talking points is something I take with me every time. Whitney, that's really, really great. And it's so, for me, I really like rules. And I think you know this about me. I really like things to go a certain way. And so I am learning to pivot and I'm learning to let go. And I'm learning to say, okay, if they don't show up, it's not going to be the end of the world. And we'll maybe have a piece of advice that helps somebody more. That's what I want to be able to do every time. I want you to take something away. So the final thing I want to talk about that I do every morning is I take 10 minutes for growth. I take 10 minutes to write down the thoughts that are in my mind as to how we're going to grow my business. And sometimes that's how are we going to make the podcast better, right? How are we going to do a better job on the podcast? Sometimes it's thinking, are we serving the right audience for not just for our podcast, but for our ASMM Digital? Are we serving the right audience, or is there a problem we should be solving for somebody different, somebody that we've learned something about that we can help now? Do we have the right products? I want to ask these questions of myself on a daily basis because I do think that as I'm thinking these things through, I can use that little 10 minutes of sitting down, writing down my questions, thinking about what I've got going to grow my business. And that's why I'm here. It is why I'm here, why I do this on a daily basis. Otherwise, I honestly could be walking right about this time. We live, just so you know, many of you may know this, some of you don't. We live in Chevy Chase, Maryland. We live about 4 miles from the National Zoo. And of course, we moved here right when everything started closing down. And now you have to have tickets to get in the National Zoo. But one of my favorite thoughts was I would be able to go down and spend my walks walking through the National Zoo. How cool is that? So I could be doing that, but I want to grow my business. I want to grow my business. And that's why I take these 10 minutes for growth. I would love to hear that from you as well. What are you doing each day for 10 minutes to think about your business and how you're growing? And is this something you're even doing? Is it something that has occurred to you? Because this happened by accident for me. It happened because I am a worrier. I wake up every morning and I have, what are the things that I'm worried about? And instead of thinking of it that way, I started thinking, wait a second, it's not so much that I'm worrying, it's so much that I'm striving to do better for myself, striving to do better for my family. I'm striving to do better for my business and my employees and my customers. And so instead of thinking this as my time to worry, I started thinking of it as my 10 minutes for growth. What can I think about right now that's not going to make either myself personally a better person, my family better together, my business better, or my employees better at what they do, or happier in what they do? Because that's important to me that my employees are happy in what they do. So that changing that thought that it's not worrying, it's striving. And by striving, I mean growing. If that's what I'm looking for, then it becomes a much more productive and much happier and less stressful time in my life to think about how am I growing and what am I doing to do this? So those are my questions for you. I know this was a short podcast today. We could almost call it a bonus podcast, but we're actually going to call it episode 83. And I hope you'll tune in. I'm going to give you another behind the scenes look at what we're doing. I'm considering starting something new that would not necessarily be separate from this podcast, but maybe in addition to this podcast, where we talk about the mindset of entrepreneurs, because I've said this over and over and over again on the show, and our guests have said it over and over and over again on the show. Being an entrepreneur is lonely, and we have a lot of thoughts we don't necessarily share with other people. So if I'm able to share some of my thoughts and some of my problems that I'm having as an entrepreneur and some of my successes that I'm having as an entrepreneur, maybe that can help you. So one of the things we're considering right now is either making that a part of this podcast or making it a part of our blog, something that you can read. So I'd love to hear, is this something you'd be interested in? Is it something you'd be interested in becoming a part of? Because it doesn't always have to be me. Maybe you've got a thought or a mindset issue or something that you have been thinking about on a regular basis that you think, gosh, I bet I'm not alone in this thought. I bet I'm not alone in being worried about this thing. And if I put it out there, maybe I can help another entrepreneur. So if you've got something like that, I'd love to have you. I'd love to have you all, give you 10 minutes and give you that little bit of time to say, hey, it's something I've got for you. This is really, for me, it's really, really important that we do these things, that we give back, because I say this every week or every time we do an episode. This is the podcast for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs. I want you to walk away with one thing that you can use. And I like this. Whitney's just said that she uses is set in the full focus planner. We use the full focus planner. There are a lot of planners out there. This one works for us. It works so well for me that I bought it for our entire team. And I continue. We subscribe to it. So every 3 months I get it. We go through it. We're able to look at what we've got, and it helps so much in the business. So please do, check that out. That's over at michaelhyatt.com. It's a really great resource we use for our business. There you go. Another thing you can use. But if you use a different calendar, you think it works well, a different planner, let us know. We love to hear about new things. So take care, guys. I hope you're doing well. I am having a good day, even though it looks like fall outside, and that means winter's next, and I'm not a big fan of winter. So we'll see you next Monday. I hope you're doing well. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.